Go ahead.
Was entitled The Absence of Field. And again, I was thinking about that from when we began watching it to,
No,
I believe it very much has to do with Charlotte's character and whoever's in that mech of hers, but it has to do with there's no depth of field, so her Charlotte has no depth.
Very flat.
She's very flat.
Right.
We saw that happening in the episode, but then she gets little tidbits that help her gain a little bit of field to add depth to her character, which is how I
So I guess the first thing we have to talk about is Delores brings back Hale's body, the form of Hale, and puts her back into her position at Delos.
As Zach was saying, Dolores' plan is coming into motion by planting her puppet Hale, who we don't drive in.
That's good. Puppet Hale.
In the driver's seat at Delos, as it were.
Puppet Hale.
Puppet Hale. And so I think...
But we get a clue, before you go into, like, what she's doing, we do get a clue of, like, she brought back 3 people and... hang on. In this episode, we see 4 balls. We see 4 balls.
Listen to her.
Listen to me. We see 4 balls, and they even have a conversation. You brought back 3 and him, is what they say. They don't say you brought back 4 people. They say you brought back 3 and him, and the him they're talking about is...
The man in black, William.
No, it was
Bernard.
Says you.
Well, it was Bernard's face.
They showed us.
Face. They showed him. They showed us.
If Bernard is Bernard, she brought back Bernard.
Bernard was one of the first ones we saw back. We already knew she brought him back. But she had at that point in the
special
episode.
Ball.
Okay, so
in that episode,
now,
we know, and it doesn't. What is that actor's name? Anybody?
Hold on, I got it right here.
Which actor?
Right. We see they're talking about who you brought back, 3 people and him.
Jeffrey Wright.
And Jeffrey Wright is the special him ball. 3 of them look the same. One of them looks a little different. They ostracize him when they're talking about him, and we see Jeffrey Wright. I don't know if that's Ford, Bernard, or Armando, or whatever the fuck his name is now.
Hector.
No, it's not.
Victor.
No, it's
Victorio.
Armando.
Armand? I don't know. Oh, Bernard. Bernard's there. Bernard is going as Armando, has split personality.
Anyway, but we know that it's Jeffrey Wright is that 4th special ball. But then there's the 5th ball that we don't even talk about in this episode.
So I guess, she puts Hale into the puppet.
Although I guess Hale
is a puppet. No, Hale's not one of the balls.
Hale's not one of the balls?
No, or else she would have put Hale in charge of Hale.
No, but Hale never had a ball.
Whoever is in Hale is the 5th ball.
Yes.
I don't think we have enough information to say with any certainty.
Wait, hold on. I'm dealing with Zach's face right now. So she brought a bag full of pearls. They called it a pearl in this episode. One pearl.
I want to talk about balls.
Balls. Okay, she brought a bag of balls, and one of them was Bernard. We don't know who the other ones were.
Yes.
So the theory is one of those is now in Puppet Hale.
Yes. So that's what I'm thinking is we have 4 now that we've seen. We've seen those balls, and we know one of them is Jeffrey Wright. Which Jeffrey Wright? It could be Arnold. It could be Bernard. Whatever. And I think the other one is whoever, because they even talk about, like, you know who you are, but do you know who you're supposed to be right now?
Right.
And so they kind of make that difference of, like, whoever your ball is, that's not who you are right now. You're Hale.
Now, so
you are not your ball.
Can I talk about my theory on this now?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Because I've been going around and around and around on what we know, what we don't know, what could maybe exist because we don't know yet that it exists. And I know we talked a lot about she can build bodies, but can she make balls?
No.
So she cannot make balls. Are we sure about that?
I
was sure about it last week, but
I think balls are only made in the forge or whatever.
Well, here's the thing. I was really trying to study her relationship with Puppet Hale. And I thought if she has the ability to also create a new ball, but not be a host because those are all gone. They're either in the Valley Beyond or the cradle was destroyed.
Yeah.
A new ball would be created from something that she took from the forge. And the only person I think she spent enough time with who is a killer instinct that she would have any understanding of is Logan. So
do you think Hale is Puppet Hale is Logan?
That she created a Logan ball from the forge information, which was about the people, and created a Logan ball because he would know how Delos works. He wouldn't know that Hale was working for the enemy, so to speak. So he would be able to go in and at least pretend to be in charge. I don't know. I'm throwing that at, and that's all based.
This is thinking faces.
No, well, okay.
Yeah.
And this is there was one point in the episode where Delores is sitting down with Puppet Hale and explaining to her, what her job is, what her role is. We only got
kind of at the
snippet
beginning,
of it.
right?
Yes, and at that scene there was Delores, who has her own ball pearl, and then there was whoever's in Puppet Hale, who has her own ball pearl. Then there were 5 balls on the table.
4 balls on the table.
Did I? Damn.
Yeah,
all right,
there were 4 balls.
So
they have the whole conversation.
We're off by 1. That's all I know. We're either talking about 5.
So now we got to go back and count all the balls.
Count the ball. Always count your balls.
But in Andrew's point, in Andrew's to Andrew's point, he was saying he thinks it's Logan. I was going to say I was getting Abernathy vibes off of it, especially what happened where Puppet Hale had to step in as a parent for Charlotte's son Nathan, and fend him off from a terrible pedophile named Thomas. Fuck you, HBO, ruining my fucking name in 2 separate series. But it felt like parental coding or whatever program.
I would agree with that as well.
No,
so it comes down the things that are just. This is why I started to step back and start opening myself up to possibilities.
That's great, Andrew.
What?
That's great. I'm really happy for you.
Westworld has got into personal
we were
growth.
Chatting, when Zach and I were still able to chat for a little while, I came out with the closest relationship he had other than Teddy would have been Abernathy, which fits in with what you were saying, Thomas. But then he when he killed Thomas, the pedophile, he was like, this is who I am. And it's like, well, look, that's when I got and so that's what threw me off, because Abernathy wasn't a killer. He was. Angela was, but in theory, her ball was destroyed when she blew up the cradle.
That's not true. In season 1, when Abernathy was malfunctioning and they were trying to address, Bernard was still Bernard, he thought, and was trying to address with Ford what the hell was going on with Dolores' dad, Abernathy. They realized he was touching on old code where he played somebody named the Colonel or the somebody, the professor who was part of a murder thing. So I mean, these people,
like a theater professor.
I mean, these people have been so many different roles in the park in Delos and Westworld. Like they could be drawing on just
true.
And again, I'm probably just as far off with Abernathy as any of our guesses are at this point. Hell, I was also getting very childish vibes off of whoever was in there. And that could be because of a lack of field, no depth of field, or again, they were trying to play a part and they were only given 5 pages of a 500-page script and they had to play that character.
So my prediction, which is going to be way out there, I'm sure, I have 2 possible ideas. One is that it's William, because we know William is at some point in the series.
We're getting at Harris.
A host, right? So we know William's mind is somewhere out there. It's possible that she extracted him and brought him with her. Possible. My other possible idea is that Delores actually split herself in half, just like Bernard did.
Horcrux.
Yeah, and so I think just a binary feel of the season so far, good and bad, light and dark. I think she may have put.
I think Delores is very singular. Yeah, I think she's whole and singular.
It was the line, "No one knows me as well as you do." That is what got me. And then the fetal position, how Delores was Hale was in the fetal position. I mean, she was in the fetal position.
I can see that.